I'm calling the Monroe City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, September 18th, 2018 to order. Call the order and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Kirchner will do the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Judy, call the roll. Julie.
Mr. Kirchner.
Here.
Mr. Krieger.
Here.
Mr. Landig.
Here.
Mr. Marne.
Here.
Mr. Blake. Mr. Donovan.
Here.
Mrs. Dowling. Here.
Approval of minutes from the work session from September 4th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Regular meeting, September 4th, 2018 minutes.
Move to approve.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation, ordinance number 18-0-077.
An ordinance to authorize advances of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance primarily accomplishes a temporary cash advance out of the city's general fund in the amount of $400,000 to the Rice Detention Basin Fund, which is a subsequent ordinance for the Basin Improvement Project. And it also appropriates that advance legally. And in addition to that, it has a $50,000 additional appropriation for more maintenance work throughout the City Hall facility. I recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig. Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-077 has been approved. Ordinance number 18-0-078.
An ordinance approving the final subdivision plat of 17 residential lots in the Creekside Farm subdivision and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. And at this time, the Planning Department is still waiting on a few items that need to be submitted and reviewed both by the Planning Director and the City Engineer. So we would ask that Council either read this or table it at your discretion.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'd like to move to table this item. I did speak with the developer, needs a little more time.
Second.
Okay. Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-078 has been tabled. Ordinance number 18-0-079.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Don Parker Sales, Inc. for the removal and replacement of 2 vehicle lifts and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Mr. Schweikert has done a good job of finding a way to purchase 2 needed replacement lifts for the price of 1. Mr. Schweikert.
Thank you. Currently, 2 of the vehicle lifts at the municipal maintenance facility, which are 20 years old, do not function and are in need of replacement. Funds are currently budgeted for lift replacement. Bids were opened on September 1st for the removal and replacement of these 2 lifts. 2 bids were received, with the low bid being submitted by Don Parker Sales, Inc. at a price of $164,010 for both lifts. Thank you.
Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling. Yes.
Ordinance number 18-0-079 has been approved. Ordinance number 18-0-080.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Chagrin Valley Paving, Inc. for the asphalt resurfacing of the ice arena parking lots and Garfield Park access drives and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. And several years ago, the administration embarked on a plan with council's consent to try to address the condition of our parking lots around the city. And so we try to do a couple of areas each year to try to get ahead of it. And Mr. Swiker will tell you a little bit about what our plans are this year.
Thank you. As part of an ongoing facility maintenance program, the city frequently contracts for parking lot maintenance. In some cases, this may be concrete replacement or, in this case, asphalt resurfacing. The scope of this year's work is the main portion of the ice arena parking lot and the entrance and exit drives at Garfield Park. Bids were open on September 12th for this work. Of the three bidders, the low bid was submitted by Chagrin Valley Paving with a price of $194,411. Chagrin Valley has done a good deal of asphalt work for the city, and they are fully qualified to complete this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
yes,
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
yes,
Ordinance number 18-0-080 has passed. Ordinance number 18-0-081.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to award a bid contract to JTO Inc. for the Rice Detention Basin Improvement Project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Mr. President, I know this is something that Mr. Landing is happy that we're able to move forward with. I'll let the city engineer offer you the details on this, but we didn't actually anticipate seeing this project go forward until next year, but we did receive an unanticipated grant award through the Ohio Public Works Commission on an application in their last round that was not funded, but it was one of the contingency projects that ultimately did get it. So we're pleased to be able to move forward with that this fall. Mr. Swigger?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. The Rice Detention Basin Improvement Project is a stormwater management project located south of Dale R. Rice School between Chase Drive and Brooks Boulevard. The project will primarily help to reduce flooding in the Martinome watershed downstream from the basin. The detention basin will be constructed over approximately 2 acres of land and will be approximately 5 feet deep, providing 10 acre-feet of storage. The basin will reduce peak flows in the storm sewer system for storms up to and possibly greater than a 10-year storm event. The construction of the basin will reduce the 10-year peak flow down to a 2-year peak flow, reducing the occurrence of flood events. This results in about a 15% reduction in stormwater peak flow in the system and about a 1-foot reduction in flood elevation downstream from the basin. 10 bids were opened on Friday, September 7th for the project. The base bids range from a low bid of $394,800 to a high bid of $718,708, as compared to the engineer's estimate of $585,000. The alternate bids for export of excavated material to Springbrook Park range from a low bid of $12,911 to a high bid of $355,274, as compared to the engineer's estimate of $340,000. The alternate bid is not being recommended for contract award because the material is not needed for Springbrook Park at this time. The low bidder is JTO Incorporated of Mentor, Ohio. Their bid has been reviewed and found to be in conformance with all contract requirements. JTO is experienced and qualified to perform this work. It is therefore recommended that a contract be awarded to JTO Incorporated for $394,800 for the base bid construction of the detention basin. The project completion date is specified for June 28th, 2019. As the city manager mentioned, the city's been awarded a combination grants and loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission for up to $250,000 for this project to cover up to 40% of project costs. Thank you.
Counsel?
Remind council.
Yes, Mr. Kirchner.
Is it planned in the future to go to the Corps for a permit for the other part of, because I think originally we were talking about the capacity for this could be up to a 50-year reign if we use the entire property, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Cruz. Well, the intention to move forward with the second phase is accurate. That's what actually I was going to mention, that, and that will be a little trickier because it does impact some known wetlands, and our past experience with permitting for this type of project is caused us to try to do this one in this particular case, grab some benefit early on, and then try to increase that down the road. And I don't know if we're in a position at this point to say what that ultimate second phase benefit would be, but you have some thoughts on that, right, Dave?
We do. We've looked at a modest expansion of the basin that we thought we might be able to get permitted through the Corps and the EPA, which is it's about a 30% expansion of the footprint, and it does result in about a 30% reduction in flow total, and up to close to a 2-foot reduction in downstream flooding. So we're hoping we can do that. We will most likely not be able to take advantage of the entire parcel which we had originally hoped to, which is where we thought we could detain up to a 50-year storm event. But that's probably a little bit beyond our reach with current regulations.
So maybe a 25-year event with
Mr.
the
Landy?
second phase?
Yeah, I just want to comment.
I would
because
have to.
We all learned some lessons with flood control on the detention at Bellflower, that the Corps, even though it was for a great purpose, it still took 2.5, 3 years for that permitting. So I commend the administration and the planners to split this up so that we won't know how many houses do not flood because we're doing this now with the additional help of the OPWC. But it would probably been delayed 2 to 3 years. So we took those lessons learned and are now using it on a detention project to promote flood control. Thank you.
Thank you. It'll also give us the opportunity to try for some grant funding for the second phase.
Counsel?
Mr. President?
Yeah, Mr.
Just to
Martin?
echo Mr. Landig's comments, I mean, much more efficient and much easier, the second time with Rice and divvying it up, and much, I can't even remember the grant funds that we received.
OPWC.
OPWC, okay, with OPWC. So, it's excellent job, you guys. Hats off. I know Mr. Landig, especially being his ward's happy. And look, we shaved years off with this buying the property from the schools too the second time around. So it's great. So glad everything's moving forward.
Thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Ordinance 18-0-081 has passed. Resolution number 18-R-117.
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this is the final step to certify to the Lake County Auditor's Office the tax rates as approved by this council back in July. This represents 4.5 mills, 1.5 outside mills, and 3.0 inside mills. About 1/3 of this is valued at a little over $2 million on the fire levy. That would be the outside millage, and the grand total is about $6.2 million of revenue to the city's funds, and I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Second reading, we have none. Third reading, none. And our favorite, manager's report.
Mr. President, and Mr. Malinowski's comments reminded me of something I didn't have in my report, but worth mentioning, that we just were recently informed that our finance department will once again receive the highest award available through the state auditor's office, the award with distinction, and we have a date in October where State Auditor Dave Yost will be down here to present that to Mr. Malinowski and his staff. So hopefully council will be able to join us for that. The Lake County Household Hazardous Waste Collection will be on Saturday, September 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Lake County Fairgrounds. Residents can properly dispose of a wide range of cleaning fluids, solvents, oils, batteries, and other things. Detailed information is available on the county's website. First Energy has finally provided power to the new Menor Avenue turn lane traffic signals. It's anticipated that the new signals will be placed into service this week, and weather permitting, the project should be complete by mid-October. They've been holding off on the additional paving until those signals were up and running, so that project should move along pretty quickly. As part of the construction of the new Menards store on Diamond Center Drive, the contractor will be extending the westbound right turn lane from Heisley Road to Emerald Court. In addition, an eastbound right turn lane into the new Menards site will also be constructed. It's important to the city, the two-way traffic that will be maintained during the entirety of that project. Although somewhat narrowed lanes, work is anticipated to begin this week and be completed by late November. So that is, of course, subject to some utility relocation schedules that I think we're still trying to get worked out. We're pleased to report that the Lake County Hazardous Materials Team was evaluated earlier this month by the Ohio Hazmat Attack Team and was found to meet or exceed all FEMA requirements for a Type 1 hazmat team with no negative findings. Type 1 is the highest rating that a hazmat team can receive, and this classification is important because it allows us to receive grant dollars for a highly rated team that, of course, defers local dollars. And our mentor has 13 members on that hazardous team, and there are only currently 11 Type 1 teams in the state of Ohio. So congratulations, Chief, on your contribution to that, to the county's overall efforts.
Thank you, sir.
During October, Mentor firefighters will again participate in Breast Cancer Awareness Month and will wear Navy T-shirts with pink logos to show support. These uniforms were purchased personally by the members of our fire department. A welcome to Kevin Malachek, to my left here, who started last week as the city's new Director of Economic Development. And on that note, I'm sure Kevin will be glad to take credit for all of these. I get to tell you about some of the new businesses in town. So we're happy to welcome to our community Ruoff Home Mortgages at 7250 Center Street, Great Clips at 7501 Menor Avenue, B&B Precision Cuts at 9118 Tyler Boulevard, All Contractor Supply at 8671 Tyler Boulevard, Love and Truth Church at 8751 Menor Avenue, Dollar Tree at 8840 Menor Avenue, Cobra's Fast Pitch Girls Softball Training Facility at 9423 Mercantile Drive, Urban Soul Grill at 7502 Menor Avenue, and Moulin Spa at 9107 Menor Avenue. And then we've had two relocations that I want to mention as well. Ingenuity Title Agency is now doing business at 7541 Menor Avenue, and Bixel Studios has moved to 7278 Jackson Street. So we thank all of them for their investment in our city, and we wish them great success. That's all.
Springbrook Gardens.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. As council is aware, we've been working toward we'll call it grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony, and that is being proposed for just prior to council's meeting, October 16th at 5:30, if that meets with your schedule.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Martin.
Mr. Flipiak, late this afternoon, you sent out a memo about our law director position. After Richard told us he's planning on his retirement, of course, with Richard, we have huge shoes to fill. What I also did since our last meeting, and I think would help council, is I contacted all the department heads to try to figure out exactly the difference in how we work with what Richard handles being on the outside and Assistant City Manager Tony Zampedro handles on the inside with his law background. So what I thought I would like is a little bit more history, because with us being part of the city manager form of government and us being legislative, we're not here every day for the day-to-day activities. So I have a little bit more history and background since you came aboard, how these two have worked together. And then Mr. Zampedro, a little bit more background from you, not only for your assistant city manager position, but how you incorporate your law background and handle the day-to-day activities of the city. So that way we have a better understanding of how each department head handles different things, whether it's working with the unions, whether it's working with employee situations, whether it's hiring, firing people, whatever the case may be. Mr. Hennig, we talked about it a little bit at our last executive session, and it's kind of hard. I know Ray and I were trying to fill everybody in from what we could remember, but we're getting kind of long in the tooth, and it's hard to remember back when you first took over. I believe it was in 2004. If you could give us more of a history about how, when you took the position over, and then especially when Mr. Zampedro was hired, what, about 12 years ago, Mr. Zampedro?
2006, yes.
2006, 14, wow, yeah, 12 years ago. And then how you two have worked together. And then finally, if you could expand more on the Assistant City Law Director and our prosecutor that are beneath you, so everyone has a thorough background of everything and we're all on the same page. The way I look at this, it's going to be a monumental task of not only hiring someone to replace you, but it is a way that we could look at possibly redefining the department or not doing anything at all to be as proactive as possible as men or as we should be.
Well, thank you for that, but I'd like to defer on that because I plan to have legislation for the next meeting for council to discuss that matter.
Excuse me? What does that mean?
Means I'm going to have legislation presented next week concerning the filling the law director's employment spot.
So you have all this background information?
Well, I will have by then. I'm not going to hold a personnel matter on the floor of council concerning, an interview for the position.
So you're going to hire what you're saying is you're going to hire somebody with not having.
Did I say that? I don't think I
What
said that.
are you saying?
I said we'll have legislation to discuss that matter at the next council meeting.
I have to defer for the law director. Explain that to me.
Well, I think the council president sets the agenda, and if he's going to set the agenda to have legislation regarding my replacement, I don't have anything more to add to that.
So what would this legislation be to?
Well,
for
I'm
us
not
to
going to
review?
discuss it. It'll be in your packet for the next meeting.
So we're going to receive legislation discussing what?
Filling a position of law director in the city of Mentor.
And what is this legislation going to, how is this legislation going to educate us before it's presented in legislative form on the agenda? What's it going to say?
Yeah, and I don't want to get involved with this on council floor concerning personnel matters and job openings. It'll probably be guessing somewhat along the line of how the city fills their positions. We'll say, here's a position available, here's the starting salary that's available, and we'll have discussion from there on.
So what exactly is this position going to be?
To fill the position of law director for the city of Mentor.
We don't know exactly what the position is now, based on the last meeting. Can you tell me exactly what the position is?
Really, Mr. Martin, I don't want to get in an argument or discussion.
I'm not arguing. I'm just asking for education background so I can make an informed
You've already
decision because
informed-
I'm elected by the people of Mentor.
You've already informed me that you have more knowledge concerning the situation
I don't
than
have
any
all of
other.
it. I don't have all of it.
Well, then you got till the
That's why
next
I'm
meeting.
asking.
You got till the next meeting to gather it. Then
So what if I have more of a background than, say, you? Maybe there's something that someone said something to me that you don't know. Wouldn't you all want to have that information in front of you so that you have a background on it, so make an informed decision?
well, we've got a lot of information already concerning this position, and
You received an email that you just sent me at 5 o'clock today that I never received, and I haven't had a chance to read because I asked for
there
it.
you go. So we're going to have it on the
Well, did
next
everyone
meeting. You'll
else
have a
see it?
chance. Pardon?
That's what I'm saying. Did everyone else see it?
No, that went to me, and then you asked me for a copy of it.
That's my point.
So, okay, well, it'll all go out this week then, tomorrow,
So
tonight.
what I asked then is, we're going to get a background on all of this, so we know exactly what transpires within the city. Because I don't know. I don't think any of us know because we're not here 40 hours a week.
Yes, you will.
I mean, I can only instruct the council people to contact whoever they want within the city to get information regarding the law director's work ethics and performance, and the same for our assistant city manager. That's up to each of the council people to do, how much time they want to spend on that. That's all I can do. I can't force anybody to call and
All right,
collect
scratch
information.
that then. Can you please just do that for me then? And if anyone would like to receive the information that I receive, please let me know.
Okay.
All right, that
That's-
takes care of it then.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
so I might know more than somebody else.
You could be.
Okay.
It's given
Sounds
any given
good. No,
situation.
that's good. That makes total sense.
Okay. Clerk's correspondence, liquor
Well,
permit
please just handle
transfer.
that, and Mr. Henning, Mr. Flipiak, Mr. Zampedro, and Mr. Henning, I'll also contact, just so you know, just if you talk to him, Mr. Zeman and everybody else. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, clerk's correspondence, liquor permit transfers.
Council's in receipt of liquor transfer for Interstate MC LLC DBA Residence Inn Mentor to Monarch Mentor LP DBA Residence Inn Mentor. And council's also in receipt of new liquor permits for Monarch Mentor LP DBA Residence Inn Mentor and JRG Venture Group DBA Cardinal Auto Wash. That's it.
Thank you. You're in receipt of commission and committee reports, the minutes for Community Arts Commission from July 5th, 2018, Board of Building and Zoning Appeals for August 14th, 2018, and Municipal Planning Commission, August 16th, 2018. No old business, any new business, no persons before council.
Move to adjourn.
Second.